Alrighty, we are getting closer, kids. No time like the present to play with technology and see if we can actually get it working. Let's just try. I can only do one channel at a time. When the meeting reaches capacity, remind them to go. There we go. Okay. Where shall we begin today, kids? We got so much stuff to do. There we go. All right, and then record to this computer. Cool. And then let's get this in presentation mode and we will kick things off. Now we need to find Zoom again. We can actually share the presentation. Hey, it's 20 years in tech and this stuff is still incredibly complicated. Alrighty, we are good to go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Subscription Overload, Controlling Your Digital Expenses. Glad to have you guys here today, whether you're on the live stream or whether you're here live in class. It's great to see you. I will put the chat up too, just so I have it in this other screen in case you guys want to ping me and ask questions along the way. I'll be able to see it and monitor on both channels. All right, there we go. We got that one up too, and we can see the chat. Awesome. So if you guys haven't met me before, my name is Nikki Green. I am a life and business resiliency expert. I help people create solid foundations for their business and for their life. Today we're going to do a special holiday version of our Business Foundations Masterclass, and we're going to be talking about all of those wonderful subscription fees that we're paying for our different pieces of software. Maybe you don't have a business and you were just interested in this live stream because you probably have a lot of personal subscriptions as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And if you miss any part of this, or maybe after you do the class, you say, oh man, I have so many questions. We are doing a second session of this class in January when we come back. It is, let's see, it is Wednesday, January 8th. So if you guys are interested, you guys can go ahead and jump in there. I will drop that in the chat and you guys can register again. Both classes are free, so you're welcome to join as many times as you guys want. Let's see if that shows up over here. If not, we'll drop it in the chat on the YouTube live as well. So I know this time of year, and especially with the current economy, a lot of folks are really struggling with just making ends meet. And one of the things I thought I would like to do, especially based on an experience I had recently, is see if there's some ways we can add some money back into your wallet for this holiday and to kick off 2025. Most of the time you guys go to these classes and it's like, how can I go pay for more things? But this time we're going to use our experience and we're going to take a look at ways that we can possibly save you money and reduce some of the overlap of tools you might have in your business. This is fun, it's interactive, so definitely drop stuff in the chat, say hi if you guys are there. Let me know where you're listening into, watching in from, depending on if you are out and about running your holiday errands or whether you happen to be home snuggled in. It's nice and chilly here in Chicago at, let's check our temp, 34 degrees. So we're in our holiday sweaters already. So there we go. Alrighty, let's head on in to talk a little bit about our masterclass for today. So we go through these sessions pretty much every month. We'll have different topics where we talk about key pieces of your business foundations. One of the things as I was helping my clients prepare for 2024 is I realized a lot of folks were having tech struggles. And having spent 20 years in Silicon Valley, I know a lot about tech and how frustrating it can be, but also how to help people find simple ways to use the tools that they need every day. And this can be, again, everything from using these tools for your business business to get yourself up and running and profitable for the new year. Or this could be, again, managing things at home and finding ways to better digitally connect with your family to make sure you're not overbuying on your grocery list, or that you guys do have a match on your subscriptions and you're not overspending there on too many Netflix accounts. So when we talk about our business foundations, I usually host these in 3 different forums. So we talk about mindset, which is always at the core of all of the work that we do. Why are we struggling with some of the things that are causing us challenges for our business, and sometimes even for our lives? Streamlining the process that we use to make it as simple as possible, and only adding that technology in when it's a benefit and it's an ability to accelerate what you're doing. So many times we just add software because someone else told us it was a good idea. Hello, AI. But if we're not actually using it, it's really a waste of our resources, time, money, and energy, and it's not necessarily moving our needle forward. And then for those of you that own your business, really talking about how do we nail your product and service offering to make sure it is of interest to the people that you are trying to serve. And so we go through this each month. We go through different topics. We are going to be talking mostly about tech as we start the new year, but this is kind of lean into some of that tech, because you'll start to see how much money you might be spending on all of these subscriptions. So one of the things I like to say first and foremost is that the greatest systems in the world will never fix a poor process. I've gone into lots and lots of different companies, and I've seen them try to add in super fancy software because they had amazing engineers to build it. And then it wasn't sustainable because the process itself was not streamlined between the people performing it. And so I've built up a process of how we actually kind of sit down with your business and do a bit of an audit and look at these processes that are causing you pain. And let's pull out the pain points first to streamline it. And then we insert a system into it that makes the most sense to reduce those manual touch points and things like that. Also, a lot of times now, software, you have different pieces of software that don't talk to each other. So you may need another piece of software, usually Zapier, that talks from one piece of software to the other. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, because there are becoming new ways where you can get a more integrated system where you don't have to have 5 and 6 different pieces of software to learn. You learn one piece of software and it already does all those connections for you. But this is important when we talk about what we're spending each month on our subscriptions, because what I find too is, because of AI, many of these pieces of software have enhanced their toolkit, and maybe you don't even know what features are in there. And so each month we'll be holding a Q&A. If you have pieces of software that you're trying to learn and you're not sure if you need, we can bring those in and we can do live hot seat coaching, and we'll talk about how do we actually look at the different pieces of software and figure out where the overlap and where the gaps are, and try to either fill those in with knowledge or fill those in with a new piece of software. So when I sit down with my clients, a lot of times when I look at their systems, it looks a lot like this: spinning plates, broken gears, and things not really working together. Our business has all these different pillars, and maybe if we came from a larger corporate environment, or maybe even a school, there were people that did a lot of these other things administratively behind the scenes, and we got to just stay in our zone of genius. But as we step in to try to build a business, now we have to wear a lot of hats or spin a lot of plates, and we have to be in a little bit of all these things all the time. And I know that's overwhelming for most folks, and often folks come to me and say, I just don't even know where to start. Each day is so overwhelming because I have to learn how to do marketing, and I have to learn how to use the tool to put it out there. Is it social media? Do I care about email? What are the mechanisms for doing these things? Then maybe you're doing that marketing, but social media is a bust. You're not really getting leads, or you're not getting qualified leads of people that are interested in buying. Maybe they're just looky-loos that want to stay there for free. And then, whether those leads actually become paying clients and you have an ability to deliver. Imagine a year where 2025, all of your clients, just ideal clients, everybody that you would ever want to work with, just shows up at your door because all of these initial pieces start working together. Your systems are clicking. You stop having all these broken wheels. Then can you actually deliver to them in a scalable fashion? Or have you set up a system that is really you, maybe one other person, maybe a VA or somebody kind of plugging in some of the gaps, but it isn't really scalable to make sure that you're getting your clients the results that you're promising them. And I've seen that a lot over the last few years since the pandemic as people are building businesses, that they have this creative genius, this ability to really help people, but they don't have the solid business foundations behind them. And then we've added in all of this tech stack of things that people don't know how to use or they're not using fully. And it's taking up their resources and not just money, but also time of trying to learn how to use it and stumbling through it not working well. So I want to do a little portion of this with you guys today because we're going to talk about how that relates necessarily to your software that you might have. And like I said, we can also do this for your your home because I'm sure, I know for us, we've got like Netflix, we've got Peacock Plus, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, whatever all the pluses are. I don't know why they're all plus, but every plus, subscription is something that we have. And so we go through a process even at home where we try to take a look and say, man, how many subscriptions do we have? And are we actually watching anything on these channels? And as we're trying to get more active in the new year, it's a great time to turn off some of those streaming services and get in the gym. All right, so for those of you, again, who haven't met me, my name is Nikki Green. I am a currently 5-time, soon-to-be 7-time published author. I have 2 more books coming out in the new year, so I'm super excited about that. I have a new anthology with my writing group here in Chicago. These are fiction anthologies that we do every year. This new one is called Journey to Adventure, and it's going to be a family-friendly anthology with lots of cool stories that are made for pretty much everyone. So I'm excited about that one. That one should be coming out early in the new year. And then a few years ago, I did The Great Leadership Awakening, which was a fantastic book with my friends in Leadership Global. This next year, I will be a part of a new anthology called Warrior Women, and another great compilation of stories of women coming into these difficult times, how we have persevered and how we came out the other side. So that one will be out in the spring of next year. So stay tuned to our channels and we'll get you some more information as those things get launched. But first and foremost, I am a motivational speaker. I've spent the last 20 years working in Silicon Valley. I was on 150 stages in 2023. We got to get the slide updated for 2024 because we hit our goal of 200 stages. How do we do that, kids? Because today alone, I'm speaking on 3 stages before I go out for the holidays. And so it's wonderful to have so many opportunities to reach so many different audiences and help them with the business of their dreams. And if you guys haven't caught it before and you're going to be driving over to grandma's house over the holidays, I have a top-rated podcast called Stand Up and Stand Out. And I have a number of amazing, inspiring guests who talk about their journey and how they've stepped into entrepreneurship and what really motivates them to get up every day and stand up for others. Sorry, I don't know why YouTube decided to also repeat what I was saying. Good times with technology. Weren't we just talking about that? Alrighty. So one of the reasons why I started doing these business foundation classes is as I talked to people, as I traveled to do all these speaking engagements, I realized that a lot of people were having some of the same challenges that I had. All those wonderful accolades, those books, those speaking engagements almost didn't come together. And it was really extremely frustrating for me, especially with all the background that I have running businesses and consulting on other businesses. Because in 2022, I lost a lot of money. And it was so frustrating to go through that process and think that I'm working with good quality people, only to realize halfway through the process that they aren't really committing to what they do. And I think a lot of us also don't have a ton of recourse. Once we've paid these companies, a lot of times upfront for what should be a 6-month or year contract, when they're not delivering, it's just up to you to chase them and hope with your fingers crossed that you're going to get out of it what you need. And I'll tell a little bit about that story as we move along. But it's really important that as business owners, I really want to start putting more integrity into this space. I want my clients to be able to deliver successfully, to deliver at scale, and to have that balance still in their life. It's really challenging if we haven't gotten these things in place behind the scenes, because then we're stumbling over ourselves, and not only are our clients not happy, but we're not happy. And I've heard many of these stories from my clients. A lot of these internet gurus who come in here with all this bro marketing and really shiny object, and it sounds like they know what they're doing, but they mostly overcommit and underdeliver, and they just walk away with your hard-earned money. And for these ones that come through these subscription services, it's like this perpetual thing where you're always paying and you're, again, not getting the value back. And maybe they have a very exclusive refund or return policy. A lot of times these cancellation policies are very strict. So I'm going to start putting together a checklist of things that you can look for to make sure as you sign up for these subscriptions, you take it a little bit more seriously and you make sure that it's very clear when you can start and stop, how much is it going to be, how much is it really going to be for your amount of utilization. We'll talk about what that means. And, when sometimes it's just time to say no and maybe start with something free before you get into a paid service. So this is really, even with my experience, I found it challenging to make sure to ask the right questions, and even knowing what questions to ask as you went through there. And if you're not necessarily talking to a sales agent as you get some of these things, where to go on these websites to actually look at some of this stuff to find the answers yourself. Alrighty, so as I said, I spent the last 20 years working in some of the top companies in Silicon Valley. I am a pricing strategy expert. I helped them, unfortunately, design many of these subscription processes that they have today. We talk about why we moved from this to, we used to have licensing agreements, and maybe some of you guys remember that. Maybe when you got your laptop, you got a copy of, let's say, Office 95, and, you got a CD or, something equivalent to be able to put into your computer, and you had that license, until probably you got another computer. Very rarely were we actually upgrading the software in those beginning days. And that software would usually last you a couple of years, and, you didn't really need it to get to the next one. As we got to this transition where we started going to cloud computing, we didn't really store stuff on our laptops anymore. We started storing it in the cloud. The benefit of this is that we didn't have to have such a long cycle to give the clients new features. Then all of a sudden, as working at Cisco, as I was working at Microsoft, we were able to produce new features for you pretty much on a monthly basis. And that required also then a new thought process of, well, you're not just getting the same old software you've always had, you're actually getting new software every month. And the amount of new features varies depending on the type of software that you're getting. It also allowed us to fix mistakes or errors or issues that came up from hackers and, all those bad players that also are a part of this process. So there are many great things that have come out of this. There's just been a difficult challenge, I think, for many of us because everyone has gone to this subscription model, and now it's becoming prohibitively expensive for us to run our businesses and to keep a handle on our expenses at home. So I want to share some of this expertise of actually building some of these, not just, the pricing strategy itself, but how does it look on a website and what are the things you're looking for in the terms and conditions? Never thought you'd have to look through the terms and conditions of some of these sites, right? But it is an important thing for you to be doing as a business owner to be better educated and to be a better educated consumer so that you can make good choices for the things that you are utilizing every day and optimize as best as possible for going into them. So as I said, we're going to do a little bit of a walk the wall in this workshop. You guys will be able to ask questions. You can ask them in the chat if you want. And if you're here live on the Zoom, you can definitely raise your hand and we will bring you up on screen. So I'd like to help these aspiring entrepreneurs because it's such a difficult time when you're starting your business. You have all these just exciting ideas of how you're going to help people. And sometimes this overhead and administrative stuff of the business becomes so overwhelming, you get discouraged and lose sight of those dreams. And so I really want to try to make this as accessible for people so that this part isn't as difficult and you always have someone to go to. I want you guys to thrive in your creativity and not struggle with this day-to-day administrative stuff. There are people here to help. I have lots of other people in my network that can also do it for you if after these sessions you realize this is still a bit too overwhelming. And I want to make sure that it's very clear how you tackle that to-do list, how you prioritize, and be able to go through those different subscriptions that you guys have in your session. So one reason why I wanted to do this particular workshop as we end the year is because of a particular software called Canva. Now, you guys may use Canva. You may be familiar with it. I've made this very presentation in Canva. And so since it is something that many people use, I thought this would probably be something that people might be aware of having happened. So earlier this year, Canva decided to change their subscription model. And it's happening with a lot of pieces of software because they are integrating more and more AI features. And so they figure, hey, rather than you go pay AI and then work around, how about I integrate AI and then you just pay me a little bit more? The problem with that is not all of us are using all of these features yet. Not all of us want those features. And there is no toggle on and off. We're basically recouping their research fees, which I feel is a little bit unnecessary. And so maybe you guys have a free account in Canva and you weren't aware of this, but I'll talk you through a little bit of what happened. And I'm sure you guys will be equally shocked as to what it equated to. So this is a snippet from the email that came out, and there was an incredible backlash that rippled across the internet. And it said that when they changed the price of our subscription and they gave us a lot of advance notice, they said not until February of 2025 are we going to change the subscription, but that my subscription price for Canva Teams, which is the level that I had, is going to go from $119.40 a year to a discounted price of $210 a year. So if you do a quick math on that, that is nearly a 100% increase in the cost of the software. The funny part in these messages, if you got them, was the messaging was like, oh, but I'm giving you a discount because the actual price is going to be $300 a year, which is, a 300% increase from what we were paying, which is absolutely ludicrous to try to sneak past people that much of a price increase. And they did it with a lot of sneaky language, which is very common when these price changes happen because they're trying to make the change more palatable to you guys, or, maybe you're not paying attention and you don't notice. So the way that they did this is, again, my current subscription price for Teams, Canva Teams, was $120. And that allowed me up to 3 people to be in my subscription. The very subtle difference is they dropped it down to $100 per person per year. And so what that did is it was like, oh, well, if I had those same 3 free people in my account, then that went from $100 to $300 now in order to have the same 3 people that I'd had in my account for the last 3 years. The other tricky part that happened with this is that they required you to have a minimum of 3 licenses. So there was literally no way to have a Canva Team subscription and only pay $100 or $200 a year. Everyone would be paying the minimum $300. So there was a lot of layers to, probably their decision making as to why they did this, but it upset a lot of people. It definitely upset me. And the first thing I did was, how do I get off of this subscription and get to the other subscription? I will tell you this was not an easy process. And so for some of these, you will see that they purposely make it difficult for you to leave those software packages to go to lower levels. If you want to upgrade and pay them more, they will make it super easy. But if you want to downgrade, if you want to try to get a discount, any of those things, you will have to go through customer service and have some patience, usually with about a 24-hour turnaround on email. but this was a lot of money. And as I actually looked at the people that were in my subscription for the other two licenses, I realized those people weren't even working for me anymore. And they were on working for other entrepreneurs. They had their own licenses that they were paying for. And so there was actually no need for me to have those additional subscriptions at all. So I went through a process. It took nearly 2 weeks of back and forth on these emails in order to figure out what to do, because one of the things that happens when you have sub licenses in these subscriptions is that those people usually own, in this case, the graphics. And so before I could kill their accounts or close them down, I had to transfer all of the things that they had ever made over to my account to make sure that I didn't lose any of my graphics they had built over the last 3 years. The same thing has happened to me in Descript with my video editing. It's happened to me with Trello when people own boards that they helped make for me for project management. So this is pretty common. So make sure if you're going to be making any of these changes, there may not just be a quick, quit it and forget it kind of button. You may need to kind of block some time in your calendar. And that's why we've put another session of this into the new year on January 6th. What's Wednesday? January 8th. There we go. So I want to make sure that you have time to go back and do a little bit of research on this. Maybe it's Canva specifically, maybe it's another piece of software that you use regularly, or maybe one that you don't use at all, and you're trying to decide whether you need it. These details matter. And maybe in the beginning, it doesn't seem like a lot because, especially the way they worded this, it's like, oh, 120 to 210, maybe that's not a big deal. Oh, they're giving me a discount. That's great. But as you heard, as I pulled back the layers and I started talking about each piece, I didn't even need those extra two people on there. So, why even pay for them at all? And if I didn't want them on there, the way they had originally set up this new licensing is I was going to have to pay for two people when I'm really a solo entrepreneur. So pay attention to these details. We'll put some of these things in the checklist that we'll give you to really talk about, okay, well, how many licenses do I get? What's the cancellation policy? Am I paying per user, or am just paying for this level of subscription? And we'll look at that live on the Canva page so you can take a look at what you're going to compare. I want to tell you the funny punchline to all of this is because after so many complaints and this outrage from the internet and all of these small businesses, then we got the second email, which says, we're sorry, we listened to your feedback and we have some good news. Your special pricing will continue, aka the pricing I've had for the last 4 years. And you can add extra people at no cost. And so they're gonna just have like a gradual transition to the new rate, but it's only gonna be about $10 a month, which again will end up being $100 a year. But again, it's up to you to add those people. You're not being forced into a minimum of 3 license. And so the way they worded it is like, oh, just because you're so nice, I'm giving you this discount, when in fact it was a huge backlash across the internet. I think this is another important lesson for all of us, is that we do have power, guys. Just because we're small individual entrepreneurs and maybe we have small teams, when we come together with one voice and we say this is not right, these companies are starting to listen because of social media, because of all these forums that we have to be able to talk like we are here on YouTube Live, that we can share these messages with these companies and make sure that we're being heard and that they're being more fair and equitable for what needs to be done. It's much easier for them to go increase a subscription price to an enterprise or large, company customer than for them to nickel and dime a bunch of small folks like us who really at the end of the day will just cancel our subscription and move on to the next piece of software. I like Canva. It's easy enough. Is it the greatest software in the world? I don't think so. So I'm sure some other competitor will start to come along, and then, we'll have a tough decision to make of like, well, does the pricing equal the features that I'm getting? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So just keep an eye on those types of things and keep an eye on your email inbox for that. So I'm going to stop the share just for a second, and I want to pull up the website with Canva's pricing, just so we go through a version of this together and you see what you're looking at on these pages. All right, there we go. Lights, camera, action. So what you'll see in most of these pieces of software is something that says usually pricing, maybe plans, pricing, there'll be lots of different words. It may not be in the top menu because they may not want you to find it. A lot of times with these companies, you may need to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and sometimes on the bottom, there'll be an additional menu here for you to possibly, find those things. That's usually the case with ones where they have a more complex model. They may want you to contact a salesperson before you go there. The other thing I want you to take a look at is depending on the type of company you have, there may be additional discounts for you. So we're going to go kind of about the general subscription types that are in here. But if you look here on Canva, you see like, oh, look, they have one for education, free tools for classrooms and for students. Maybe you're a student learning how to do graphic design and you don't, again, want to pay for that subscription fee, and maybe there's additional educational tools in there to help you learn how to do graphic design. Maybe you're a not-for-profit. I sit on the board of several nonprofits, and so it's great to know that you can get a free license for your nonprofit where you don't have to pay at all. Sometimes these companies have military discounts, so take a look, or sometimes, again, depending on who else is in utilizing the software, there could be discounts for, first responders, medical people. Lots of different options exist, so don't hesitate to look around and see if there's possible discounts for the software you need to use. So when we look at this, and we'll go to the big page here because it's a little bit easier to look at. This shows you all the different options that they have. And I would say no matter what type of software you're using, I would always start with the free account. Start at the base level when you're trying to learn how to use a piece of software before you begin paying for it. You can, sometimes it's only free for a period of time. Maybe it's a free trial for like a week or 2 weeks, sometimes longer, but I would always start there. In this case, it doesn't look like there's any contingency on having a Canva free account. There is limitations on, which types of designs and things you can use. And I'll show you about that. So you'll see in these ones that are kind of a little bit more purple, which are the paid ones, there's a little crown on it. And different companies will designate this in different ways. This just happens to be the way that Canva does it. So as you go down here into all the little check boxes, you'll see that you get a lot more options for photos, videos. You can save your brand kit, you can resize and change things. You get more AI tools, and you get a terabyte of cloud storage. So you start to get more features as you go in here. And in Canva specifically, you'll see that they'll show you lots of different graphics. If you search, I don't know, Santa Claus, there'll be some kind of basic graphics that won't have the little crown on it. And then there'll be some more advanced graphics, maybe even AI generated stuff that has the crown. So unless you have the Canva Pro, you can't really use some of those other features. So just know, it's no big deal to start with the free one though. You might as well start, drag and drop, learn, see if it's a software you like using, you like the interface, you even understand how to use it before you start paying how much, these software things cost. So in this case, then we're going to get to the next level. So Canva Pro is 120 US dollars per year for one person. So again, this talks about that difference between whether you have a license in general that, maybe you guys can share, or whether you have to have it per person and if there's an additional fee for that. You'll see that the new licensing level that I just talked about is still on here, but that's going to be for anyone going forward. That happens a lot of times too. Sometimes you will get grandfathered into a previous subscription price and only the new people get, this subscription. Because sometimes it's just too hard to move the older database on, and things like this happen where everybody starts complaining and then you lose customers. So if I were to, let's say, cancel my account today and maybe start it again in January, I would lose that discount and I would be back to this new rate of $100 per person. You'll see the difference between this is not only is this Canva Pro one person per year, this Canva Teams looks cheaper at first glance because it says, oh, well, it's only $100 a year per person and I get more stuff. But this goes back to the caveat I talked about earlier, and that it's a minimum of 3 people. And so it's actually $300 per year. You do get more features a little bit in there, and this goes to some other, compliance things, which may be necessary for your business. You can do more ad copy with AI, pay as you grow, which again means, you only add people as you need them, and AI admin controls. So, being able to control how much other people that are on your account can use the AI features. So that's kind of interesting. And then there's always this sort of enterprise level. So if you're a big company and you have a lot of people, then you will get an actual sales agent and someone will tell you kind of what those negotiated prices are. The other thing you may or may not notice that is up here is a lot of times there will be a toggle, and that is between, in this case, monthly and yearly and custom and people. So let's say if we wanted to move to a monthly subscription, you'll see this page dynamically updated. And so now we're talking about the Pro, it becomes $15 a month. The Canva Teams is $10 a month, but again, per person, so it's actually 30. And so you get a little bit of a discount if you pay in advance for the year. So a lot of people, can kind of see this right away, and it'll tell you right here, you're going to save 16% if you get a yearly subscription. Why would they do that? Well, they want to lock you in for the year. So there are probably some requirements around how to get a refund, when you can cancel, and if you get any money back if you cancel before the end of it. So we can kind of take a look and see what that means. The other toggle they have here is custom and people. So let's see. Well, that one doesn't seem to work, but I see. This you can actually write in there. So let's say I have 5 people. So this is another dynamic setting where I can put in the number of people I have in the custom thing. And so I can toggle both things separately. So right now, this would be $50 a month for the total of 5 people, basically $10 per month per person. And then again, I'm on monthly, but I could go to yearly, and then it'll tell me, yeah, okay, it's $500, $100 per person. And looks like they've added even a little calculator in here because there was so many complaints. So show me how I got this price. And so they'll probably take you to a little calculator to explain a little bit more. Let's see if there's any other, so here at the bottom, it'll do a little bit more detailed thing to compare the features, which is nice sometimes, so you can see in a little bit more detail what you might need specifically. You'll see also they kind of hid some of it, so you have to click this compare features button to start getting some of this. It talks about the AI tools, sound effects, other workplace tools, ways to collaborate, brand management, which I love, so I can put all of my brand colors in there for different projects that I'm working on to make sure very quickly and easily the brand's color associated with that gets done. You can do permissions, things, storage, and let's see if it just says anything about refunds, pay as you go, creative services, priority handling. So yeah, again, the bigger you are, the more service you get to. So you start talking about, like, if you have a free account, you're probably not going to get much support at all. If something's not working or you don't know how to use it, you only start getting support once you pay. And even then, it's probably not going to be a person on a phone. You will not get a phone call from someone until you're an enterprise level organization. So that kind of tells you a little bit about, how all of it works, just so you guys have something to look for. And like I said, There's some other things here where you can go to like an education version and you can possibly get, so this is for teachers, this is for schools, and this is for students. And so great opportunities for people to be able to use these things together in a classroom setting for learning. And again, looks like it's a free license for education. So could be a great way to, help your students in a different way. All right, just doing a quick time check here. I think we are good to go. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat while we are going through this. Doesn't look like it right now. Just checking back on the Zoom if anyone has any questions or anyone wanted to pop up with things that might be a specific piece of software that is of interest to you. All right, let's get back over. To our beautiful slides. There we go. All right. So one of the biggest pieces of software I always ask my clients about is whether they have a CRM. And a CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management Software. It's basically a way of keeping track of all the people that you're trying to come in contact to your business. This could be something as simple as an email system. There's a lot of free or low cost ones like MailChimp, and I used to use Constant Contact once upon a time. And it's a really critical part of your business, but again, something that you can start with for free. So the reason I want to talk a little bit about this is because I had an issue happen, and we talked about some of those bad actors earlier in the session, is that it, so here, okay. So in 2022, when I was getting ready to launch my best-selling book, Chameleon Mindset, I hired and fired a hybrid book company to help me launch it. I paid them about $13,000 and they promised to make me a best-selling author within 1 year. And after 10 months, they hadn't finished editing and they didn't have a launch date, let alone any kind of project plan for us to get there. Continually, the dates slipped and they really just weren't performing. And then when I kept asking them, okay, so when are we going to get this book done and out the door? They asked me to renew for another $15,000 as the price for 2023 was going to go up. And considering they hadn't delivered in the first year, I asked them why I would possibly pay them a second year when again, they hadn't really fixed any of the problems that I had talked to them about. Talking to other authors that were using their service, they were equally struggling, and it was apparent that they had brought on way too many customers and did not really scale to the needs of their business. And I think this happened to a lot of people over this time is they got so excited after the pandemic that all of these people were coming out to be entrepreneurs and they wanted to do different things, start a podcast, write a book, whatever all the things are that we needed to learn. And so they created these very high ticket processes, and it was prohibitively expensive, and they didn't really deliver. A lot of my clients have had this situation. I recently just had a friend of mine cancel his book company as well and postpone his book launch. For me, I really knew I wanted to get this book out the door at the beginning of 2023, and it wasn't my first book. So I already knew how to do a lot of these things behind the scenes because I had gone in and played around with the software with my very first book launch. And I highly encourage you guys to do this before you start hiring people to go do a done for you type of service, that as best as possible, you find ways to do it yourself. I know it's frustrating and it is a lot more time consuming, but it gives you a better appreciation for the things that you actually need to spend money on and to know that you're getting quality work when it's done. I knew they weren't delivering because I knew what was possible in the books I had already released before. Also, I came from the land of doing project management for over 90 parallel projects at a time. There was never a time when I didn't have, at the very least, something in Excel that said, here's when we're starting the project, here's the things we have to deliver, and here's when I'm going to tell my boss that this thing is all done. And it was just really out of my, realm of understanding, where I kept asking them when it was going to be done. And all they kept saying is, well, there's a lot to do. And I said, well, then where's the list of what there is to do? And they just simply didn't have one. They didn't have a system behind the scenes to really methodically walk through this process, even though they had launched hundreds of other books before mine. So with no cover and no launch day in sight, it was a very sad Christmas in 2022. And so I ended up having to pay another $6,000 to a new PR company to complete the official launch part. The launch part was the part I didn't have a great experience in, and I wanted this book to go big. So I knew I needed to spend money in that, and I had a great relationship with that company. And so I said, hey, let's go do it. But I had to spend the next 45 days and sleepless nights painstakingly completing my book. So from Christmas of 2022 until February 22nd, 23, when I launched that book, I did the final edits, I did the cover, I did the Amazon upload, and I did the marketing campaigns in parallel with the PR company. It was not fun. I'm glad I got the book out the door, but that is absolutely not what I expected for the money and resources that I had put into it. So whether you're paying for these subscriptions, $1,000 a month, or, a lump sum over the year, make sure that there are clear milestones and deliverables throughout these contracts. So that way you can go back to people and, either get a refund or hold them accountable for those dates. So one of the things why we're talking about this as of how it relates to the CRM is that this was just like every bad decision layered on top of itself. And this is, again, things I've heard from many of you. As we start trying to do something with someone we trust and they start to fall apart, we have to start kind of grabbing at other people who we hope can help still keep some of these projects on track. Unfortunately, it was a lot of dominoes that kept falling of people just not performing the duties that they said they were. So I've been much more cautious, and why I continue to make these checklists and help other people take a look at the contracts and take a look at these subscription fees before they get involved in some of these companies. So in the middle of all of this, I hired a book marketing company to create a book website, which they promised would be done in 30 days, so I could start taking pre-orders, since I didn't know what the official Amazon launch date was going to be. But unfortunately, after 4 months, the website still wasn't available to take pre-orders. And so I had to fire them around the same time I was getting rid of the book company. It was a double whammy and an incredibly stressful time, in something that should have been really happy and a big celebration of accomplishing this next book project. When I fired them, another bit of the fine print that I found is that they actually owned my CRM license. And we talked about how central that is to our business. And I had started in a free HubSpot account, which is a fantastic piece of software. There's lots of different elements of it. It's not just a CRM, it's an email marketing, it's a social media scheduling. And the very beginning of it is free. So you can use it for growing in the beginning, and then you can move to something more expensive. Unfortunately, the software they forced me into keep was a lot more expensive, because they were calling it a done for me service, and it went to $1,200 a month. And it was prohibitively expensive. I did not like it. It did not work well. I constantly had issues. And because what turned out, they owned my license, they were constantly the intermediary, and I didn't have administrative ability to actually go in and fix things. I've heard from many of you, the tech folks behind the scenes on some of these done for you projects are good when they're good, and they are miserable when they're not. So making sure you really understand who you're going to be working with before you get involved in these contracts, especially for such a high price tag on a monthly basis, it's really, really important. And so my only choice, even if I had wanted to stay with Keep and get my own license and stay in that software, had I liked it, I still would have to extract my entire database and recreate it in my own license. I decided I didn't like it, and so I was very happy to move over to the folks at SpeakerFlow, and they created my setup into Zoho. But it took 6 months. 6 months to get that up and running. While I was doing 150 speaking engagements, I was all over the place launching my book, and I lost a lot of leads and a lot of money and a lot of time and actually faith at the end of the day because I wanted them to do better. And there was nothing more I could do but move forward and start to put the right pieces into place. I tell you guys this because maybe you're struggling with a piece of software that you invested a lot of money in, and someone promised you it was going to do all the things and magically solve your business, and it's not performing, or they're not performing, or both. It's not too late to pull this stuff out, put in the right things, audit your systems, and get back to a simpler thing that you can actually manage day to day with a process that's scalable for you and your clients. Alrighty, so we're almost out of time for today. So I know that probably there's a lot on your mind right now, and really this is the time for you guys to take a deep breath over the end of the year, celebrate with your friends and family, and see what comes next for the new year. If you think now you're like, man, I really need to audit my system and I don't even know what all the subscriptions are or what all these pieces of software do, I would love for you guys to join us in January. I will drop the link in the chat again in case you guys are interested, because there's no shortage of amount of times that you can go through this and we can try to help you find that overlap in software. I will be moving to a weekly training on this. We're going to have Tech Tuesday every Tuesday, and we're going to go through different pieces of software, and we're going to talk about how does it work, what should I be using it for, what are best practices, and how do I unwind if I have a tool that's in that space that I don't like, and get to something more affordable. There'll also be free sessions. So all of January, my sessions will be free, so you guys can just drop in. We already have a schedule. I think it's in here next. Let's see. There we go. So as we go into January, here's what it looks like. Tech Tuesday for January 7th, we're going to do some of our goal setting and planning in our digital notebook. If you guys haven't grabbed it, I do have a free mini course on digital notebook. We'll send that out to everyone who shares their information through the registration. And then January 14th, we're going to get organized in spreadsheets. We're going to create a content calendar. We're going to put those goals into a more detailed format and really show you how to use a spreadsheet to your advantage. Whether you're familiar with Excel and you like using Microsoft, or whether you have Google Sheets or something else, spreadsheets are pretty universal. And so we'll use that to help you get organized and ready to track stuff in the new year. Then you'll see there's no class the week of the 21st. I'm on a cruise. Many of you guys, I think, are on the marketing cruise. So we're going to take a break for 1 week, and then we'll come back and have one last free class on January 28th. That, again, is Tech Tuesdays, and we're going to talk about what we were just talking about is kind of those email marketing systems / sort of CRM. So if you're having problems with your email marketing system, you're not quite sure how to use it, best practices, we're going to go through some of that when we get to the end of January. And then we'll be getting the paid sessions as we get into February, and we'll have new topics and things like that as we go into each Tuesday. It is going to be about $100 a month, and you'll be able to not only sit in on the coaching, but also do hot seat coaching and bring some other stuff too. And then to finish things out, we have our Get Shit Done business retreats, again, rebooting for next year. Our first stop is going to be in Fort Myers, Florida, Thursday, March 13th to Saturday, March 15th. We're going to talk about writing your story, to learn the business of writing, and it's going to be a super fun retreat. We're going to warm up for those of us that are here in Chicago or somewhere in the snowy lands and get into a little bit of fun in the sun. Really excited about that one. That one's going to be great, and we'll be right around the time we should be launching one or maybe two of these books. So we'll have those to share with you as well. I think that's it. If you guys want to learn about the retreats, we're updating the website, but thenikkigreen.com/retreats. There's a form on there. Let's just grab the form if you guys are interested and drop that into the chat as well. That's just an interest form. It doesn't mean anything. There's no hard sales pitch. It's really just if you would like help and you would like to learn more about the retreats, whether it's the one in Fort Myers or some of the other ones we host. We do one here in Chicago in the summertime. Early, probably June timeframe, we'll be back in California in the wine country, and still planning to do a trip back home to Northern Nevada to go to beautiful Lake Tahoe. So if you're interested in any of those retreats, the form, is kind of good for everything. And we do in-depth work on your business in each of these retreats to help you get a solid foundation. And that way, by the time you leave, you are ready to rock. And I think that's it. So we will kind of sign off here. I will turn off the recording in case anyone has questions. I appreciate all of you guys joining today. It's been fun going through all of this with you guys, sharing a little bit of my story, of sharing some of the funny stories of things that happened with subscription services like Canva. There is lots more to learn, and if there's a particular software that you are interested in learning more about and you would like for us to feature on Tech Tuesday, drop it into the comments if you catch this video afterwards, and we'll let you know when we boot that one up. All right, you guys, have a wonderful holiday. It's been awesome to see you. Right after this, we have another session for the women's panel. And then tonight's our holiday happy hour. So I hope to see you again later today. And if not, have a wonderful break, hopefully, from your business and spend some quality time with your family. Get a little bit of downtime for yourself. And we'll see you in the new year.